I have a very interesting job. I'm usually brought in to companies at a very specific moments, not when everything is clear, but when something isn't lining up. We're going to talk about that today because actually, no one can explain why everything is not lining up. It might be a company that's growing quickly, revenue is up, opportunities are coming in, but internally, things feel harder than they should. Decisions are slower, teams are not fully aligned. There's tension in conversations that no one is naming. Or perhaps it's a company preparing to sell. On paper, everything looks solid, but underneath that, they know something isn't as clean as it needs to be. And they don't want that showing up in diligence because trust me, it will show up in diligence. Or perhaps they've even gone through an acquisition and the integration, it's not working the way they expected. Roles are unclear, processes don't match, people are operating differently, and there's a quiet level of frustration building across the organization. And here's the important part: leadership doesn't always see it first, employees do. They feel it in how work gets done, what doesn't make sense, what no one is addressing, what they don't feel safe saying out loud. I've worked inside all kinds of environments: construction and skilled trades, plumbing and field operations, oil industry, auto dealerships and repair shops, shipyards, accounting firms, pharmaceutical companies, different industries, but the same patterns. Because this isn't a culture problem. It's not something you fix with a slogan or a one-day initiative. It's the way people are operating inside the system, the dynamics, the pressure, the behaviors that develop when no one is really looking. And one of the biggest things I see, people don't feel psychologically safe. Not unsafe in an obvious way, but in subtle ways. They don't speak up. They work around issues instead of addressing them. They adapt instead of aligning. And over time, that impacts everything: performance, communication, profitability. So let me show you what that actually looks like in real time. Picture this: I'm standing on a showroom floor, sales team all around me, energy is high, people are moving, deals are happening, and on the surface, everything looks fine. But I start talking to a few of the team members, just casual conversation. And within a few minutes, something starts to stand out. They figured out a way to work around the sales process, not in a malicious way. No one woke up and said, "Let me break the system today." They just adapted. They found little gaps, little loopholes, ways to close faster, to protect their deals, and sometimes even edge out a teammate. And over time, that became the way things were done. Leadership had no idea because on paper, sales were happening, but underneath, the system wasn't working the way it was designed. And more importantly, the people inside the system were operating in ways no one was actually seeing. That's human behavior. And that's where I come in. Welcome to the Kathie Owen Perspective podcast. My name is Kathie Owen. This is where we talk about human patterns under pressure, what's really happening inside companies, and the invisible dynamics that impact performance, culture, and results. I've spent over 25 years in organizations, from corporate wellness to leadership environments, and today I help companies see what they cannot see on their own, especially in moments that matter most: rapid growth, mergers or acquisitions, or when performance looks fine, but something isn't adding up. What I do is called human diligence. It's the layer inside a company that doesn't show up in reports, but it drives everything. Because businesses don't run on the processes alone. They run on the people inside those processes. and people adapt, always. Here's what most leaders don't fully account for. People will always find a way to make their environment work for them. Not because they're bad employees, because they are human. If a process is unclear, they will fill the gaps. If something feels unfair, they'll adjust to protect themselves. If there's no psychological safety, they'll stop speaking up altogether. And over time, those small adaptations become patterns, and those patterns become culture. So, what do? I go into organizations and look at those patterns directly. I usually start with an assessment because that gives me a signal. Where are the tensions? Where are people holding back? Where are things not lining up? And then I go into the business, not just meetings, the work. I sit with people. I stand beside them. I actually will work with them. I ask them to show me what they're doing. Walk me through this. And within minutes, you start to see the workarounds, the inefficiencies, the unspoken frustration, the disconnect between leadership intent and daily execution. Most companies don't have a performance problem. They have a visibility problem. Because here's what's happening at scale. Each department is solving for itself. Sales is optimizing for sales. Operations is optimizing for efficiency. Leadership is optimizing for growth. But no one is standing in the middle and asking, is this actually working together? So what you get is competing priorities, misaligned behaviors, systems that look good but don't function clearly. And over time, that creates friction. Friction costs time, and time costs money. Now, here's where my work expands in a way most people don't expect. My background is in corporate wellness, and I didn't just run programs. I built environments. I designed corporate gyms. I ran boot camps, strength training programs, yoga. I led wellness days and health fairs. I brought in mental health resources and medical health resources. I created rewards and recognition systems. And what I learned from that is that wellness creates access. When people are outside of formal roles, they talk. Trust me, they talk. They share what's really going on in their world, in their lives, in their jobs. They share what's working and what's not. What doesn't make sense? So corporate wellness becomes a strategic layer of human diligence. It opens doors that would otherwise stay closed. And when you layer in rewards and recognition, now you're shaping behavior intentionally. Because what you recognize, people repeat. You start to see higher engagement, better communication, stronger accountability, increased psychological safety. And that changes how the entire system operates. This becomes very critical in two situations, mergers and acquisition, because integration issues are rarely technical. They are human. There's misalignment, there's confusion, there's unspoken tension. Human diligence surfaces that early. And when a company is preparing to sell, this is one of the most valuable things you can do because buyers don't just evaluate numbers, they feel operations. And when things are clean, efficiency improves, overhead decreases, risk is lower, which directly increases enterprise value. And here's the part I think that matters the most. It doesn't take long to see this because once you're in it, the patterns are there. You just have to be willing to look. So most companies are not broken. They're operating on patterns no one is slowed down to examine. And when you do, you don't just fix problems. You change how the business functions. If you're listening to this and thinking, oh my gosh, I've seen this, I've felt this, this is happening inside our company. I've written a full blog post that goes deeper into this. You can find that in the description and show notes below. And if you want to explore what this could look like inside your organization, there's a link to connect with me, or you can reach out through my contact page. This is the Kathie Owen Perspective podcast. I trust that you found today's episode helpful. If you know someone who could benefit from this, please share it with them. And I will see you in the next episode.